I know yesterday the topic was the Saquon Barkley topic. You haven't heard my opinion on that yet. So whatever it's worth, I'll give it to you. But I am more focused on the playoff scenario as the Lions win last night. I really didn't have to, but they won anyway. And Dan Campbell decided to play it full bore with all his players in there, as depleted as they are. He's going, you know what, men? I have set this up for us to be a macho team, men. And we're not going to relent. We're going to play it to the hilt. See, if he would have not played it to the hilt, his players would have kind of had a peculiar feeling about the guy. I laud the guy for sticking with his principles of toughness. Now, whether that toughness gets him in the end, whatever. But that's not the topic. Here's the topic. The Philadelphia Eagles right now in a playoff scenario, depending on what happens in the last game for the number one seed in the NFC, which will either be the Lions and the Vikings, the way it is set up now for the playoffs, the Packers would come to the Eagles. This is the worst nightmare for my two compadres who fear the Packers and fear Jordan Love. The Packers would have to come to Lincoln Financial Field in game one of the NFC playoffs. But that's not all, folks, because the way it plays out right now, the Eagles would then have to beat either the Vikings or the Lions in the second round. They get the toughest division in football, two teams from the toughest division in football in the playoffs back-to-back before they get to an NFC title game. And I'm just curious how people feel about that. Because I look at the power rankings, for some reason the Eagles have dropped into a fifth slot. Because what? What the Lions did? What the Vikings did? So there are a lot of people who cover the league and think that the Eagles now are a notch below maybe the Vikings or the Packers. A lot of disrespect going on right there. So we'll talk about that. But, of course, I got to give my opinion on the Saquon Barkley thing. Now, I got to think that the Eagles have already decided what's going to happen with that. And in talking to Bill over the weekend, he said, well, and he was very logical. Bill, you said to me they pulled him out of that game. That's probably an indication that he's not playing next week. Is that your feeling still?
Yeah, they took him out with 11 minutes left in the fourth quarter, immediately upon crossing the 2,000-yard mark. And the way they celebrated after the game, too, Mike, in the locker room, the offensive line holding him up for the 2,000 yards and all that, I think that was the goal, and now they're going to rest everybody. But we'll see. Sirianni still hasn't announced what the plan is.
I'm going to tell you what I feel. When it's an all-time record, you can't possibly deny a guy a chance. This is a players' league, okay? It's not a coach's league. It's a players' league. It's why these guys make all the money. It's why they get the big free agent contracts. You cannot deprive a player of some kind of marketability, like setting the all-time rushing record. And I know there are people out there, well, that Mike, the Super Bowl is more important. Yeah, well, maybe Super Bowl is more important to you as an Eagle fan. A player who has a chance to break an all-time record, you're going to tell me that you're going to deprive him of that? You're going to bench Cal Ripken from setting the all-time play streak? You can't possibly do it as a head coach. You can't do it to the guy himself. And I don't care how humble Saquon Barkley is. And I know he's a good guy, and he's a team-oriented guy first. This is an all-time record. It's not a team record. It's an all-time record. How could you look yourself in the mirror if you said, I deprived that guy of trying to break a record?
All right. Here's where the problem is, though. It's not just Saquon that would have to play in Week 18. So you got to remember, this team hasn't had a bye week since Week 5. We're now going on 12, 13 weeks where they have not had a true bye week. You have a lot of guys on that team who've played a lot of snaps. Lane Johnson's not getting any younger. It'd be very nice to build in a bye. Look, a few years ago when the 1 and 2 seed both got byes in the playoffs, no problem. Maybe you consider playing them in Week 18. But the fact that there is no bye week and you haven't had one for 12 or 13 weeks, you couldn't go into this game and just play Saquon. So now you're playing the offensive line, you're playing your wide receivers, you're playing your tight end, you're probably playing Jalen Hurts in a meaningless game. I get it. It's an all-time record, Mike, but the goal coming into the season wasn't we want to set the all-time rushing record, is we want to win a Super Bowl.
The goal coming into the season, you never even thought about it. You're on the cusp of it now. You can't evaluate what you thought at the beginning of the year and bring it to this point. You're on the cusp of it. Who thought they'd be on the cusp? When you're on the cusp of something, a no-hitter, something significant, an achievement that will last a lifetime, how could you deprive a guy of it?
I think you got to protect the players from themselves in this situation.
Oh,
they need the rest.
They need the rest. Weak. Why do we always presume that somebody's going to get hurt?
It's not even that someone gets hurt. So Saquon Barkley right now has 50 more carries than he's ever had in a single season in his career. So now you're going to go into Week 18. The Giants know, the Eagles know, the game doesn't matter. So the whole point of playing your offense is we're going to try to get Saquon the record. So now you're going to feed him, and you're going to feed him, and you're going to feed him. So he may finish the season with 75 or 80 more carries than he's ever had in his career.
So what? The guy squats 1,000 pounds.
What
are we talking about here? Somebody who's frail? This guy's a horse.
I'm not even necessarily worried about injury. I know that's a big concern.
Why you're the anti-Dan Campbell. You're the opposite of the Dan Campbell.
You got to be smart,
You're
man.
Weak.
You got
weak.
Yeah.
It's not smart. It's weak.
Dan Campbell would run him into the ground.
It's weak. This is a special thing. How many chances will you ever get into a position where you can achieve something this special? Never. It'll never happen again in your lifetime.
All right, so then answer me. Are you playing everybody? Because you can't just play Saquon.
How come we can't play it by ear?
You can't not play the offensive line.
All right, well, then how come we can't play it for a half and see where it goes?
All right, well, then,
would you at least compromise to that?
Here's why you can't do that. What if he has 75 yards in the first half? You think you're going to say, you know what, I only gave you a half, because now you're only 26 yards away.
All right, if he has 75 yards, so what? You play him in the same half. What's difficult to get 25 yards? He can get that on the first carry in the second half.
What if he's got 50? You letting him come out in the second half for another 50? So you got to go the full game with all of your players.
You're not going to have to go the full game against this team. This team has quit. How hard do you think you're going to have to go to get 100 yards for Saquon Barkley?
They have a terrible rushing defense. The Giants are one of the worst teams in the NFL when it comes to rushing defense.
What are we talking about?
Because they're going to know, Mike, when you go into this game, you go into it saying, all right, we're only playing our starters to get Saquon the record. So now you're running the ball. Your whole game plan changes. The Giants are going to be selling out to stop the run.
You don't have to change your game plan. How many times have you seen him go 3 yards, 4 yards, 26 yards? What are we talking about here?
All right, so you're playing the offensive line. Are you going to play them too?
Yes.
All right, you're playing them. What about AJ and Devontae?
Listen, I can also stick a backup in there every now and then. It's not going to kill you, but you don't have to play your whole full bore against this Giants team.
But here's where I think you're wrong. This isn't just a Saquon Barkley record. If they go for it, the offensive line wants it just as bad as Saquon. So do you really think an offensive lineman's going to say, you know what, I don't want to be out there when Saquon Barkley sets the record? No, you're going to have to play.
It's amazing. You're like an archaeologist digging up these excuses.
Because there's so many factors.
There's not so many factors. Trust in your guys. What are your backups? Kids off the street? Your backups are professional football players who weigh 330 pounds.
You really think Jordan Mailata is going to say, yeah, you know what? Put in Fred Johnson for me.
I don't care what Jordan Mailata says.
They're going to want to play.
That's a coaching decision. I can get away with Fred Johnson, and Jordan Mailata has no say in it. The only guy has say in it is the running back I'm trying to get the record for.
See, I disagree. Would you agree with me that this is more than just a Barkley record, that the offensive line would feel like they're a part of the record?
So what? They feel a part of it.
So you're going to tell them they can't play?
What are you talking about? They're always going to feel a part of it. Saquon's the guy who's going to have his name in the record book, not them.
But you're going to have to play everybody, Mike. See, that's where we're going to definitely disagree. Because if Saquon goes for the record, you are playing everyone.
I'm totally shocked and offended by this. You deprive a guy a chance to get an all-time record. Now, and Ray, you're probably feeling the same way, too. You and Bill on the same page today.
We are on the same page. Tell him, Ray.
You ask how I look in the mirror, I look in the mirror the same way I do every morning.
Two turkey necks Here they are right here that I'm working with here. The private guy of an all-time record. Ridiculous. 610-632-0975 is how you climb in this show. You got the Eagles winning against the Packers and either the Lions or the Vikings. Let me know how you feel. The Mike Missanelli Show. We're back on New Year's Eve, and we're back after this.
Hey guys, thanks for checking out our video. If you want more from the Mike Missanelli Show, somewhere on this screen, there is somewhere where you can hit the playlist. Keep interacting with us.